What's going on? Welcome to the Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Knittel, and on today's podcast, I am joined by Tom Sweezy from the MLS Aces Podcast. Tom, hello. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, Dave. Thank you for having me on. It's a fun time to talk soccer as always with anyone in the MLS or US soccer Twitterverse and soccerverse.
Absolutely, yeah. It's always a good time to talk, but we're right in the middle of MLS season. Everybody's back from international breaks, and the second half of the season is really starting to heat up. So I'm pumped to talk about that with you today. But before we get into that, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into the sport of soccer?
Yeah, no, definitely. So, as you just said, I'm Tom Sweezy. I got into, I guess, talking about MLS and, MLS specifically back in 2015. Before that, I really hated the sport, which is I guess is an interesting background for me. I was never a soccer guy. I played, American football in high school, and I had every mean word to say about soccer players back in high school for sure. And from that point, I really just got into it from the 2014 World Cup. My friends really were into it at that point as well. I started playing FIFA, and I kind of just wanted to connect with what we had here in America. And no better way to then just hop on the computer, sign up for some social network, and kind of just see what people are talking about. So I started MLS Aces back in 2015. I kind of really just watched the playoffs back then, and then MLS Cup, that Crew Portland Timbers MLS Cup. And it really just hooked me in. I started doing a little blogging about it. I started just, talking about MLS on Twitter. And then from that point, I was like, hey, why not do a little podcasting? Why not actually kind of get my thoughts and opinions more out there with my voice? And started that in 2016, and now I'm here, kind of just talking about it, writing about it. We have a website, www.mlsaces.com, and it's a lot going on.
That's awesome. Yeah, and we have all of that linked in the video description if you're watching on YouTube or podcast show notes. But with the 2014 World Cup, I know you said it was your friends. Was it anything specific that like really drove you into it? Was it just you were being a little bit more open-minded? Was it the fact that, like you said, playing FIFA? Was there any specific event, or was it just kind of like, hey, I'll give this a shot, and then you sort of like went with it from there?
I think it all kind of just mixed at the perfect point. There was no one event that really like just got me into it. I graduated high school in 2013, so going into that summer, you have nothing really to do before you get into college and everything like that. So it was really the people I was hanging out with at the time were in love with soccer. We were playing FIFA a crap ton. We were going out and during the day kicking the soccer ball around a little bit and then coming back, going in the pool and watching soccer in the afternoon. That summer was filled with soccer. And then that kind of just led me into saying, what does America have?
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll get into this, or well, actually, we can kind of get into it now. I want to circle back on the MLS Aces stuff, but you're an NYCFC fan, right? And that was right around when the team launched, right?
Yeah, so before the team launched and everything like that, I went to a few Red Bull games, and I was never really a fan of the team even back then. I just didn't like the environment. I didn't like the crowd. I didn't like the types of people, I guess, that are at Red Bull games. Not that like this is any specific type of anything. It's just it wasn't my vibe. It wasn't my type of it wasn't my type of personalities of the game, I guess. So when NYCFC got announced and there was actually going to be a team in New York, and you have more actual New Yorkers connecting with the team, I was like, hey, I think this is a perfect chance. You got some big names coming in there originally with Pirlo, Lampard, and Villa, and I wanted to watch. I wanted to be a part of that.
And so, how are you feeling about Dome Turan? Have you always? I know the team has kind of turned things around. The result didn't go your way yesterday. So we're recording on Monday for anyone that's listening to the podcast, July 15th. This comes out on the 17th, just for reference purposes. But how have you felt about him as a manager?
I think I'm kind of riding the wave along with every other NYCFC fan. no one's going to replace Patrick Vieira. What the system he had and the success he had with his system was just untouched. And then when he left, things just kind of fell off with Dome. And I think that's where a lot of NYCFC fans, including myself, really have a lot of negatives to say about him. But he's really turned things around in recent time. 3 losses on the season at this point, a tough one coming yesterday against the Red Bulls. But I do have to say I'll give him the credit now that he deserves, and he's turning things around. I just don't know if I'm as confident in him as as I was with Vieira going into the start of last season.
I think that's fair. Absolutely. Do they need any upgrades this summer transfer window? Do you expect them to make any moves? And where's their biggest area of need?
You know, I do definitely. I think any team in Major League Soccer right now, including LAFC, a team as stacked as them, could make moves this transfer window and definitely improve the squad. NYCFC, I don't know if they have that true striker up top, if they have that true guy that's going to go out and get you the 18, 20, however many goals you need to kind of be that superpower threat to make MLS Cup. We got a bear. We have Mitrita out on the wing. A bear to me is more of a winger, but he can play that 9, and he's this fantastic talent. So I would like to see maybe NYCFC going out to get another striker, another guy like that. But it's tough because it just seems like we want to sign every single winger possible.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I've been impressed with Hebert. I mean, the finish that he had in the Red Bulls game was really amazing. What is he? He has like 6 or 7 goals, right, in only 11 or 12 matches, something like that.
I think it's 6.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, he's been impressive. And I mean, if he can keep that form up, I mean, he's right around that 18, 20 goal mark. But I mean, that's a big if. It's always interesting to see how players, coming into the league, how they adapt and then how they evolved with the travel and all the complications that come with playing in MLS. And so where do you expect NYCFC to finish at the end of the season right now?
I think talent-wise and definitely form-wise, we are a top 3 team in the East. And that's definitely not what I was saying before the season started whatsoever. But with the additions we've made and from how, we've had some players step up and look really good this season, I think we could finish 3rd in East.
Okay, fair enough.
That may be bold. That may be bold on my end, but I'll take some bold picks.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I mean, right now, I think you and the Red Bulls are top 2 in the East in points per game basis. And me being a Philadelphia Union fan, I hope they kind of stay up there. But it seems like no one really wants to grab the East lead and sort of run away with things the way LA is doing out west. So, I mean, I don't think it's outrageous for you to say NYCFC finishes 3rd. I think they could potentially still win the East. And so it's going to be a fun back half of the season, especially being Eastern Conference fans. And so before we kind of circle back on the MLS Aces stuff, I got to talk to you about the stadium in New York City, Yankee Stadium. What's your perspective being a fan of NYCFC? Are you happy with the stadium situation, or do you want to see them move into a soccer-specific stadium?
Look, I think it's the obvious pick here. And coming from an NYCFC fan, you have to get them out of Yankee Stadium. You need to get them into a soccer-specific stadium. You see what Orlando has. You see what Atlanta's not a soccer-specific. I can't speak a soccer-specific stadium, but it's close enough where it's just such a huge soccer environment down there. You even look at something like the Columbus Crew. I know they don't bring out a lot of fans, but the fans that are there, they're just it's such an awesome environment to see just from specifically soccer, where I want that for NYCFC. I know it's tough in New York City. Where are you throwing a soccer stadium? There are some options. And I have voiced my frustration with the whole thing, that it just seems like every year they're just like, yeah, by the end of the year, you'll hear an update from us. And the update is never, we've picked the spot and we're going to start building. It's never that. It's never going to be that. But yeah, I don't know. I want them out. It just doesn't seem like it's ever going to happen. The field conditions are awful. We saw the turf come up against the Impact earlier on in the season, which was gross. But I don't know. I'm frustrated with it myself as a fan of the team. Just I'm sure as everyone else is who has to come play in a baseball stadium.
Yeah. Is there a slight element of, I mean, it is a serious home field advantage playing there for NYCFC. I mean, being a Union fan, like we just cannot figure out playing in that stadium. Is there any sort of element that like it is a positive for you guys, or no? Are you not subscribing to that whatsoever?
Look, I will without a doubt say we have a good chance of winning the game when we're playing at home. And I'm not hating that whatsoever. You know, I'm not going to say that having that home field advantage, which it is a bad thing for us. It's just you want to see something different overall from the club. I'll take wins at home all day, you know, every single game during the season if possible, but you want to see the club advance. You want to see the club kind of build more of a positive culture, because there's been a lot of negative culture takes around NYCFC as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we circle back on some of the MLS Aces stuff, we have a question here from Daniel Martinez joining us live on YouTube. So thanks, Daniel. Which is the better conference in your opinion, West or East, Tom?
Are we talking talent-wise? I would argue the East. If we're talking competitive-wise, I'm talking the West.
Interesting. Okay, so elaborate on that. So you think there's more talent in the East?
I think from top to bottom, there's more talent in the East. I think you can pinpoint the superstars in the East of a Alejandro Pozuelo, of a Josie Altidore, of a I can't think of another player right now. It's probably not good on the spot.
Bear, Matrita, I mean Joseph
Even guys like
Martinez.
that. Exactly. Joseph Martinez, Pity Martinez, Ezekiel Barco, whatever you want to say about them, they are very talented players. Julian Gressel, I love him. And then even if you want to look at some of like the lower name players in the East, you can look at the Union with Casper. I can't say his last name ever.
Shabilko.
He's a fantastic striker that just gets overlooked because, no offense, he plays on the Union, you know, but the Union have an Austin Trusty, have an Andre Blake in net, where the West, you know, you have Vela, you have Diego Rossi, you have Albert Elise, you know, you have guys who are fantastic star players. I'm not saying they're not, but I'm saying if you're looking top to bottom, talent wise, I'd take the East. But I'm saying if you're looking at competition, I'd take the West, because the Galaxy are the Galaxy, but they have Zlatan. It'll keep them in every single game. You know, you have guys like that and teams like that that'll just have those players that'll keep them in the game. But I don't know if a starting 11 matches up with some of the other starting 11s in the East.
Fair enough. That's an interesting point. And so I was like, I'm always curious about other fans and how they kind of keep up with everything. So how do you follow MLS? Like, is it specific Twitter accounts, podcasts, websites you're checking out? Like, how do you keep track of everything going on in the league?
I think that's a very good question, because it's something that I think myself and maybe every single MLS fan struggles with, is trying to keep track of the numerous amount of teams, then the rumors and everything going on within every single team. It's tough. I try to be that source for people. Not that I'm trying to break news. I'm just trying to kind of say, you know, what's going on Twitter, what's going on Instagram and stuff like that. But I think I have my notifications from the MLS app that pop up on my phone. Foot Mob and Bleacher Report always just pop off with MLS and US Soccer notifications. But on Twitter, I think it's kind of, to me, it's about building your MLS Twitter connections for yourself. Like, I will talk to you guys about it. I will talk to other podcasts like the 9607 MLS pod. I will talk to that. And everyone's kind of talking about the same things. Or if something new pops up, you guys are talking about it. And then maybe I'll see that and I'll take my opinion on it. And then, you know, another MLS podcast or another MLS blog sees that and they want to make their opinion on it. And it's kind of just like, just getting to know soccer and MLS people on Twitter. And then kind of just, that's how it grows for me.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's kind of ours. So mine is mainly podcasts like yours, the Cooligans, Extra Time is kind of how I keep track, and then mainly on Twitter. So I'm kind of the same way there. So getting back to the MLS Aces, you started in 2015 as the blog, and so first off, the name is really kind of interesting and unique. Where does that come from?
So, you know, it's unique, but I'm going to be completely honest. It came up out of nowhere. I was trying to think of a name of what to call it, and I came up with a lot of crappy names to start. So I was like, I need to think of something else. I need to think of something that if eventually I want to throw a logo on it, it'll look interesting. And I just was so happened to be playing, a game of poker with my friends, and I had an ace of spades in my ace of spades in my hand, and I was like, MLS Aces sounds cool. It kind of like works, like, you're an ace of the game. You're an ace of the league. I don't know, the information about it. So there's no real deep meaning behind it, but I think I like it. I think it works, and the logo looks cool too. It did get me in a little hot water with Seattle Sounders fans that I didn't know Aces stood for, but it's all part of the learning curve.
What does that mean? What I don't maybe I don't
So
I don't
I didn't know this either, so I'll teach everyone out there. I did an interview on the podcast with Steve Zakwani a few months ago, and he was a pleasure. Great conversation. Love talking to him, and a very gentleman, whatever. So I post on Twitter, like before the episode comes out, that I interviewed Steve Zakwani for the podcast, blah blah blah, kind of just get him to retweet it and talk about it a little bit. Seattle Sounders fans went nuts, going at Steve saying, "Why would you go on a podcast that's anti-Seattle, blah blah blah?" And I'm like, I talk shit about every team, but I'm not like specifically like targeting Seattle. And one person came out and said ACES stands for any city except Seattle.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, this is way too deep for me right now. Like, this is way too, I'm not part of this. So I clarified it. I clarified it with Steve, and I apologize. Not, I didn't know about that, but so just in case you want to know, don't ever say Aces if you're in Seattle.
Okay, all right. Well, that's very good to know. I had no idea. I mean, that's one of those where, like, I don't know, the internet, there's just so many acronyms floating around, like, you can't keep track of all of it. So that's a little bit ridiculous, and I'm glad the situation got cleared up, and I'll keep that noted for future reference. I got to be very careful about my use of the word aces in the future.
Exactly. That episode got a lot of listens. I'll take
it. Well, yeah, that's good. It worked out for you guys. So you started as a blog, and I think it was either earlier this year or maybe it was last year. Apologies if I don't have the timeline right. You started the podcast. And so what kind of was the decision or the factors that went into starting the podcast?
Yeah, no. So the blog went from 2015, and it kind of ended around 2017, and the podcast popped up, I'd say the middle of 2016, maybe.
Oh, my bad. I have my dates all wrong.
That's completely fine. So something like that. I'm not exactly sure the first official day of the podcast. I want to say maybe it was 2016, somewhere in there. But I don't know. I wanted to talk about it. I felt like, I could only express so much on Twitter. I could only express so much, writing a blog, and sometimes just speaking things out and getting my thoughts out there is just better for me. Sometimes you can't just express everything you want to say in written word, and you want to say it with some sarcasm. You want to say it with, whatever. I try not to be serious about it. And that's really kind of where I wanted to take the podcast.
Good. That's awesome. And so in addition to yourself, you have Sam and Jason who are involved in MLS Aces along with you. How do you guys all kind of know each other?
So the podcast originally started off with me and Riley McManus. I don't know if you know him. He's out on Twitter. He does his own podcast now, and he covers a lot with Houston Dynamo because he's down in Louisiana, and it's easy for him to get over there. So, I always have to thank Riley for the time that he was on the podcast as my co-host. But, things happened. We had to move on, and I needed to find other people to kind of fill that hole and help talk with me. So Jason Vivang, he is the creator of the MLS Aces logo. He was, one of the biggest fans of the podcast, which is weird that, I'm going to say we had fans. But, he was always interacting with us, always talking with us. And I DM'd him one day, and I was just like, hey, Jason, again, thanks for creating the logo and everything like that. Would you ever want to come on the podcast and just talk? Because he always gave great opinions on Twitter. He always gave like great, like funny remarks back and everything like that. He said, yeah, we talked one time, tried it out. It went well, and we kind of just rolled from there. Sam, I know him from some other podcasts that he did in the past. It's called Soccer Soup. It ended about 2 years ago, I want to say now. And I always enjoyed the listen because Sam kind of dove into some lower level soccer, some amateur soccer, like NPSL and stuff like that. And I loved his takes. I loved the interviews he had, and I kind of wanted to just bring him a part of that. And we were always, in connection there on Twitter as well. So Twitter kind of was the connector for Sam, Jason, and I. I introduced Sam and Jason, and the three of us just. I think it may be luck, but the three of us kind of just we work out well communicating with each other, and we talk some shit, and we all we laugh and we drink and we have a good time.
That's awesome. It's always good to have that kind of rapport and, bounce each other and have good, fun conversations. And so with the podcast, I know it's obviously MLS focused, but is there anything specific that you guys, do you talk heavy on tactics? Do you try to stay more on off-field issues? Do you have any sort of like focus for the podcast and like specific things that you like definitely do want to touch on or definitely kind of avoid?
I don't think there's a topic or any type of situation we try to avoid. If it's something serious, I think we kind of rope it back in and we understand, this is a serious topic. We should talk about it, or it's a serious moment. We should talk about it. But our main thing is to kind of just look at the games for what they are. Talk about tactics if they were, obvious, but I'm not going to say at all we are a tactics deep podcast. Like, I think we all know what we're talking about tactics wise, but that's not something we try to focus on. I think we kind of just look at the game, the impact of the game, some moments in the game, and kind of just try to just make light of it, make jokes about it, and but also seriously have our takes about how it impacts the team, how it impacts the league, how it impacts the standings. I think it's just kind of more we want to make it where it's three guys chilling, saying what we feel about the game and how we feel about, the league in general at points.
So what's your schedule like? Like, do you always do it? Because generally speaking, MLS ends on a Sunday. So like, do you guys always record on like Monday or Tuesday and then, recap all of the matches? Like what's kind of your schedule and what do you generally talk about on the episodes?
Definitely. So we usually drop an episode every Wednesday. We record on Tuesday nights, and I'll get it edited Tuesday night and get it right up. So Wednesday, anyone can kind of listen and take that dive in. But we'll talk about whatever major news goes on, from anything in coaching to player swaps to injuries to anything like that. And then we kind of just dive into the games. If it's one of those weeks like, week 18 was, we do not talk about every single game. I think it's impossible to talk about 25 games happening in a week. But, we talk about the important games if it's a week like that. We talk about the important moments. We talk about kind of just breaking stuff down that way. We always talk ahead of time about, what games are important to us. What games do we have takes on? I may have two games in this week that I really want to talk about. Where Jason may have 5 games he has opinions on. So we'll kind of just flow with that. And, whatever we have takes on, whatever we want to talk about, we talk about. That's pretty much it. And then obviously anytime there's US soccer going on, we always talk about that, and we always drink a little extra during those sections. But it's it's a fun time.
Yeah, I definitely want to. We'll get to that in a minute or two here. But let's keep it kind of more on the positive side of things. Recently, you guys did something kind of cool. You compared MLS players to their Pokemon versions, and so I wanted to get your thoughts on kind of where that came about. Where did the idea come from? And then so let's start with that.
So I'm a '90s kid. I'm an absolute '90s geek. Grew up on Pokemon. Grew up playing, red, blue, and yellow, and all of that. So I'm still a nerd down in heart, and I really wanted to kind of just connect those two things. Like I think I saw a commercial for something Pokemon related one day, and I was like, like would it kind of be cool to see like what Pokemon different MLS players would have? And I kind of just wanted to do it like that. Then I think shortly after that, it may just be completely coincidence, I saw Reggie Cannon, right back for FC Dallas, tweet something out about Pokemon. And I was like, yeah, I'm totally doing this right now. Like, this is happening. So it took me about a week and a half to kind of get some opinions on Twitter, to write everything up and to make it sound somewhat connected in some type of manner. But it came out. I think I had 13 or 12 MLS players and what their 6 Pokemon team would look like. And I don't know. I just thought of something fun that like MLS doesn't always have to be serious. We don't always have to talk about, what this game means to the overall standings. You can also have fun with it and kind of do that.
No, I'm 100% agreement. I love it. And so who's the one that you're either most proud of or the one that you're like, oh my gosh, this is just home run. Absolutely. Like this player is this Pokemon.
um, that's a tough one. I wanted to say that I connected Wallace Abubakar, center back for the Rapids, and Executor perfectly, just purely based off hair. That one I didn't think was gonna go over as well as it did when I wrote it, but that one hit off really well. But I also do have to love I did a Dax McCarty one, obviously Chicago Fire, just went all fire type Pokemon, and that one worked that well too.
Yeah, I saw the Executor one, and that one was awesome. Just it just matches up so perfect. So very cool, and you can check that out on the MLS Aces website. Again, we have that linked in the video description and podcast show notes. So be sure to do that. Any plans to do to expand that and do more teams and or players?
Oh, for sure. I mean, it's gonna take some time to think of more, but I would always do that if people enjoyed it, which from everything I can see on my end, people are looking at it and reading it and enjoying it. I'll definitely do more. It's just it's sometimes I'm stretching to make some connections between the
Yeah,
two.
no, it's definitely not easy. And I'm also a 90s kid and I love Pokemon too. So this was very close to my heart as well. And I did I see this right on YouTube or on Twitter, excuse me, that you guys applied for press credentials for the MLS All-Star game?
We did. I don't know if, obviously we're still waiting to find out if we get it, but if we do get it, I don't know if all three of us will be able to go down, but definitely me if we get it.
What's involved in that process of applying?
So I I want to say last month, I got on that email thread of MLS media people, and I felt real official after that one. But an email came across saying like, do you want a application for MLS All Star events? And it came up with the list of everything from the skills challenge to the game to the red carpet and all that stuff. So I clicked on the email. I was like, why not? I'm official now, right? I should do it. So I signed up, Jason, Sam, and myself, and it's pretty much just uploading a picture saying what events you want to go to, your name, and what you're affiliated with, and whether you get it or not is all, I guess, a coin flip.
Got it. All right. So it's nothing like super cool. You had to go to like a secret meeting and be interviewed or anything like that.
I went into New York City. I met with Don Garber.
Yeah.
You have to have an hour interview with him.
Yeah. I figured, nowadays with the internet, it's probably just some form or something like that. But I wanted to ask, so in addition to MLS Aces, I think you guys also have the Full Press podcast. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So whenever we were talking on the MLS Aces podcast, the three of us, we always made some type of reference to European soccer or something else just going on in the world of soccer. And I know that Jason and Sam, they are much bigger into European or just world soccer in general, more than I am. I'm not saying I'm not, but they follow it way more closely. Sam is a Tottenham fan. Jason's a Liverpool fan. So, even the Champions League final was a big deal there for the three of us. But they wanted, I think they really wanted another platform to talk about the European game. And I said, why not? I just didn't really want to host it because I didn't want to make it something I'm kind of stretching to talk about and stretching to introduce new topics about because they knew more than me. So Jason Vivang, he really wanted to, I think he really wanted to take the charge with it. And he's the host of the Full Press podcast. It's the three of us again. It's Jason, Sam, and myself, but Jason leads it. And it's kind of interesting because we talk about whatever's going on. We just kind of talked about the Women's World Cup for the past month or month and a half of the show, and I'm still learning the European game. So it's kind of also a learning tactic for me too.
Yeah, it's very cool, and that's something we've kind of struggled with under the umbrella of Bros Talking Soccer, where we're just so general. And I think it's good to have two separate brands, where the MLS Aces one is kind of heavy focused on MLS and American soccer, and then Full Press is kind of more European or broader. So I think that was kind of a smart decision from you guys. What are your goals for both podcasts? So either in the short term, anything exciting kind of coming up, or is this something that you want to evolve into a full-time thing? Are you happy with it being more of like a hobby type thing? What are your goals there?
I want to start long term. I mean, obviously, I think that if I got paid, a reasonable living to talk about soccer 7 days a week and create content around soccer, whether it's videos, podcasts, blogs, whatever it may be, I would love to do that. There's not many of those options out there. There's not many of those realistic, financial backings out there as well. So you have to be definitely understanding of that. So right now, I think I'm definitely okay with it being something part time, being something just a hobby, and just enjoying doing it. Because if you're not enjoying talking about it and doing what you're doing, then there's no real point of doing what you're doing. I think for the short term, I definitely just want to expand it where I think the three of us kind of just get out there more. We go to an all-star event. We go to more games. We go and we just meet people and do our thing there. I'll say it here. We just ordered more stickers, and Jason came out with a very cool new logo for MLS Aces that, I'm very excited to show Twitter and show everyone out there and kind of, pass them along to people who have supported the show. So it's something just small like that I'm excited, and that's the short-term goals. But then there's obviously those long-term goals that I talked about.
Absolutely. We just got some new stickers too. We'll have to do like a sticker exchange. We can
Oh,
take that.
definitely,
Yeah, we'll
definitely.
take that off air. But yeah, that'd be awesome. You touched on Sam and Jason's fandom overseas. Do you have any clubs overseas that you support, or are you mainly kind of focused on America?
I'm mainly focused on America. The whole big joke with me on the Full Press Pod is me trying to find my team. Is me trying to find my guess my supporting love. Um, Early on, they were Sam and Jason were making jokes that I'm gonna support some like fifth tier English team, and Jason's cousin actually sent me a Woking FC scarf. So I think they're in like the fourth division of English soccer, but I have their scarf just hanging up right now. Um, but I do like Bournemouth for some reason. Don't ask me why. Maybe it was just Emerson Hyndman. I like Nathan Ake a lot. I don't have any connections to them besides that. But other than that, I'm still trying to figure it out. But for me, it's mostly American soccer.
No, that's fair enough. And I mean, it's kind of interesting being a fan of soccer, specifically American. And, you can almost kind of root for wherever American players are, and you don't have to be, as tied down in Europe. So I kind of like that. I mean, I personally support Liverpool, but most of the other leagues, I kind of have a floating fandom of wherever American players are. I'll kind
Pretty,
of, yeah. What's that?
I said pretty much, yeah. Like wherever there's an American, I'm going to root for them to do well.
Exactly. So speaking of Americans, we got to touch on the U.S. men's national team before we get out of here. And so what did you think about their performance at the Gold Cup?
Um, I may be a little more negative, but that also just might be whenever I'm a fan of a sports team, I'm negative about them. Um, I think that making it to the Gold Cup final is not an accomplishment for the U.S. men's national team. Even
Oh, Tom, I'm not sure if you can
over
hear me.
a
Oh,
yes, I
sorry,
can.
Tom. We
Sorry.
lost you for a good 5-10 seconds there. So you said you tend to be a little bit more negative. Making it to the Gold Cup final is not an accomplishment, and then we lost you. So what were you saying?
No problem. It is not an accomplishment to me. I think that with our talent level, it's not an accomplishment to make it to the final over a Haiti, over a Trinidad, over Panama, over even a Costa Rica. We should have the talent to make it to the final every single time in CONCACAF. The real accomplishment is beating Mexico, which we didn't do, and we didn't look great in the final. Yes, we had a hot first, 25, 30 minutes. But at the end of the day, we didn't get it done. We didn't score, and Jonathan Dos Santos put in that final blow, and it sucks. We allowed two goals the entire tournament, and we don't win the tournament. But it is what it is, and I don't agree with Greg Berhalter's the roster choices. I don't agree with his substitution choices in the final, but I guess that's something we're gonna have to see him grow in as well.
All right. And so I'm slightly hesitant to ask this, but how are you feeling about the future of the team, coming up with the September friendlies and then getting into CONCACAF Nations League? How are you feeling about that?
I guess I may actually be more positive on the future. I don't know why. um, I think with an impressive U20 World Cup from Timothy Weah, seeing him integrated into the team, I'd absolutely love it. I would like to see Josh Sargent in the team. Him playing any type of summer soccer would have been nice too, but whatever. And I think that Zach Steffen going to play in the Bundesliga will be a positive boost. I think Christian Pulisic learning at Chelsea and playing in the Premier League will be a positive boost. I'm optimistic about where these guys are going, and where they're developing and where they're, kind of heading in their careers, because we're young and it's exciting to be a U.S. soccer fan right now. It's just maybe present day, it's not great.
Yeah, I'm in agreement as well. I tend to skew a little bit more optimistic, both in current and future. And it sounds like you're skewing optimistic in the future too. I'm really excited about, whether it's Paxton Pomykal, Sergino Dest is, doing very well at Ajax. Looks like he might be playing left back. So he's another one that it would be amazing if we can get a left back to break through, whether it's Gloucester or Dest. I'm excited about what this team is doing and what their prospects are coming up. So before I ask kind of my final questions, we had one more question from Daniel here, getting back to the MLS kind of stuff. He asks, which is going to be better for you to watch, the Campeones Cup, which is the match between, what is it, the Liga MX? I guess, is that the tournament that's happening between Liga MX and MLS? And no, Campeones Cup, is that the Liga MX winner and the MLS winner?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's Tigres versus Atlanta United.
Okay, so is that going to be better to watch, or the MLS All-Star Game for you?
Oh, that's a good question. MLS All-Star Game. I hate both, to be completely honest. I think that the MLS All-Star Game is almost an embarrassing competition for MLS in a global sense. But then on top of it, we just never get anything positive when an MLS club faces off against a Liga MX club. So I'm going to say MLS All-Star Game, mainly for, I guess, the skills competition, which they introduced this year, that I'm very excited about. But the games itself, I'm going to just maybe say neither.
Yeah, I'm in 100% agreement with you on both kind of being a waste of time. And I think they need to expand the skills competition. And really what I'd love to see is some sort of, 5-a-side or 3-a-side futsal game celebrating MLS, rather than kind of playing against, an international competition, or you can even involve them in some way, but having some sort of small-sided tournament or something like that, celebrating the league and having it more fun, playing in what amounts to be an exhibition game with players that literally have never played together versus an international caliber team. I get that it's a spectacle and it draws some fans that wouldn't otherwise be there, but for me, it just doesn't make sense. And I would love to see more of a celebration of the league rather than trying to grab fans who may not be interested. So that's kind of where I fall into all of that. And I guess I probably would pick the MLS All-Star Game there too, even though I just talked so much shit on it. But the Campeones Cup doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever. So that's kind of where I fall. But before we get out of here, is there anything I didn't ask before I ask my final question?
No. Can I give one more MLS All-Star take?
Of course.
I suggested this on our podcast, and I want to hear your take on it. How would you feel about an MLS All-Star team facing the European-based U.S. men's national team players?
It'd be somewhat interesting, but again, it gets back to the I don't know, God forbid somebody gets hurt in that competition, like getting clubs to release players for that game, I don't think is likely to happen. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, it might be interesting in concept, but in practicality, I just don't see a scenario where that could actually happen.
No, definitely. I can understand that. We were trying to spitball new, fresh ideas that look better than, a friendly against MLS All-Stars and a top team in the world. And, just want to throw that one out there.
Definitely be more. I personally think it would be more fun because, again, it's a celebration of American soccer then, right? Which is MLS is the league here, and it's got Canadian players as well. But if you bring back American players from Europe, it could be a fun sort of competition. And again, I think taking the real game aspect out of it, I mean, you could do the same thing, but again, have it be small-sided games, have it be 5-a-side and futsal kind of related, and have players have fun and just make it more of an event and, lots of different things going on around it, I think would be a lot more fun rather than playing a full-sided 90-minute game, 11-on-11 with players that don't really know each other too well and all of that. So Yeah, that's where I fall down. But it's a cool concept and probably better than what we have going right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's practicalities of it that don't work, but I was just trying to think maybe of, like you said, a celebration of U.S. soccer in total.
Yeah, no, that's spot on there. So before, or not before, but I always like to ask our interview guests this, and this is what we like to leave it on. We like to leave it on a positive note. So what's the thing, Tom, you're most excited about happening in your soccer world? You can take it from a fandom perspective. You can take it from an MLS Aces perspective. What's the thing you're most excited about happening in your soccer world?
The thing I'm most excited about happening in my soccer world, that's a fantastic question. Wow. Um, I'm gonna say the most exciting thing for me is the potential for NYCFC to actually make a run in the Eastern Conference this year. I think I've talked about other things with MLS Aces on, already in this conversation. So I'm just gonna say that NYCFC potentially trying to get its first trophy, which of course you couldn't beat Orlando City in U.S. Open Cup, but it's fine. For us to actually be able to make it out of the East, where like you said before, no one wants to take the East. I think we have a legitimate shot, and that's exciting for me as a fan because I need that in my life.
I love it. Very cool. I think we lost you right at the end there, but I think you said you just need that in your life, right?
Yeah, I need that in my life because if I don't have a trophy, I can see Minnesota United getting their first trophy before us with this U.S. Open Cup, and it's gonna be a shot to the ego right there.
Well, as a Union fan, I mean, that would, I mean, we have no trophies, 3 Open Cup final losses. So I feel your pain is what I'm getting at there. And we've been around for at least 5 years longer than you guys have. So I feel your pain there, but
I'm so sorry.
no worries. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, that's the thing I'm most excited about happening for me too, is the possibility of the Union, getting some sort of trophy or at least finishing first in the East and qualifying for CONCACAF Champions League. So I think that is something exciting for you to be excited about as a fan. I've mentioned this before, and we have all of the Twitter, website, and Instagram linked in the video description and podcast show notes. But in case people are just listening, Tom, where can people find you guys?
Twitter at MLS Aces, Instagram MLS_Aces, and our website MLSAces.com is pretty much where you can go and find even more information if you need that past that.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here talking with me today. This was a really fun conversation. Best of luck to NYCFC the rest of this year. Good luck with your all-star credentials. And I'll be following your journey and expecting big things from you guys in the podcasting world for the future.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you. And we'll get that soccer swaps out of the sticker swap soon.
Absolutely. Yep. So thank you again. Daniel, thank you for being here, interacting with us on Twitter. We appreciate it. And have a great day. We'll talk to you soon, everybody. See ya.